podcast, everybody. This is episode 68. And much like last week, I am joined by a special guest who was here last week. She was so great, I decided to have her back on for the next episode. Joining us once again is Miley Reyna.
Hello, thank you for having me back.
Of course. People loved the last episode. I'm really glad some of the reactions that I've gotten with that, and glad people enjoy seeing differing opinions and people being civil with each other. So yeah, thank you for that. Great conversation. And the reason why you're here is because, like we hinted at the last episode, Miley has seen Scream 6. I can't say my M's today. Miley has seen Scream 6. I have not, and I'm still debating whether I'm going to, but Miley is going to give her spoiler-filled reaction to the big things that happen in this sixth installment in the franchise, and I'm going to react to it in with joy or with complete and utter dread for the direction of the franchise. I don't even really know. I know we texted each other after you saw the movie, so I don't really know your full thoughts going into the film.
Right.
Like if you, I know you said you generally liked it, but you were still sitting with it. So I don't even know if you've changed your mind, if you think it's the best one or it's the worst one. Like I don't know. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. So do you want to just get into it then, or?
Well, let's do our current events, and then we'll do Scream.
Okay.
So
I don't want to get too excited.
Yeah, I know. This is exciting stuff. So we have a couple of things we want to get to before we get to that. So we have two trailers that came out since we last talked. One looks incredible, one and then we have a story that is a little sad, but at the same time exciting for those of you who are fans of Quentin Tarantino. So first and foremost, let's get into the good trailer. Start us off on a good note. So the final trailer for the Super Mario Bros. Movie has been released, and I'm not a huge fan of when studios release a third trailer for a film. I'm usually like do a teaser, do an official trailer, and do a final trailer. And I guess technically they've done that. They've done a teaser, they did a trailer, then they did this is like the second trailer. So I guess that works out. And not that I wasn't excited already for this movie, because I am a huge Mario fan, but this trailer like blew my excitement through the roof. I don't know. I take it you got to see the trailer too. What did you think? And what are your thoughts going into this movie?
In
general anticipation.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really grow up like playing any of the games. And so I was just at first thinking like, okay, this is just going to be another animated movie capitalizing off of like popular IP. But then even just seeing like the teaser trailer, I was like, this feels kind of cinematic. This is interesting. Okay. And then this latest trailer, it looks really fun. I feel like they really utilize a lot of the expanded world that like the games are known for. And it looks like an adventure, and kind of your, I don't want to say like your standard family movie premise, but I think if you're going to be adapting Super Mario, which is this fun video game that you're known for, you want some of that excitement and that action, so it looks like it has a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
And the characters seem really fun. I'm typically not like a fan of this new trend of, I guess it's not super new, but this trend of hiring A-listers to do voice acting, and they're just kind of playing themselves. Like, I would love to bring back the art of actual voice acting, but I feel like the actors, from what we've seen in these trailers, they're doing a really good job, and you can tell they're having a lot of fun with it. And so that just makes me feel excited because
Mm-hmm.
the people involved seem like they're having a good time. And I think if you know that actors are having a good
Right.
time, that often translates to within their performance. So
Yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
feeling a lot I'm feeling a lot more excited than I initially thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I'd go so far as to say Mario, like the Super Mario Bros. Is probably my favorite video game, and I know that sounds pretty like, oh, you're a traditionalist or whatever. Of course, you'd say that, but I mean, it's true. Like, I remember getting one of those really old Nintendo 64s from my dad growing up, and he had only a couple of games, but one of them was the original Mario Bros. And we loved that game as siblings. We got when they came out with the new Super Mario Bros. On the Wii, we got that. I think even more than that, like my favorite game in the Mario universe is Mario Kart. Specifically Mario Kart Wii. Like I play that all the time with my sister and my sisters-in-law. I think that's the way you say it, right? Sisters-in-law. Um, it's like it's a way that like when I first met my wife's family, that was one of the things that like immediately allowed us to bond was that initial experience playing Mario Kart with my siblings, and then that
Oh,
translating over to my relationship with my my in-laws. So I have a lot of love for Mario Kart and a lot of fond memories playing that game with them. So it's fun. It's not only is it fun to know that they're doing Mario Kart in the movie, but they're doing so many like fun little references to the game and like almost every aspect of all the games that have come out in the 30, 40 years Mario's been around. It's not even just limited to the original game. Um, it's also fun to see, yeah, like you said, these A-listers who are doing their best to pay respects to the, like, everyone obviously weren't very confident in Chris Pratt's ability to be Mario, and even I love Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's one of my favorite actors. I love the guy, but even I was a little skeptical. Like, really,
yeah.
Chris Pratt?
Yeah.
and hearing him in the voice, like now I'm like, okay, my ears are kind of attuned to it. He's doing like the little mannerisms. He's doing all of Mario's catchphrases and stuff, and he's doing it very faithfully. And he's not just playing
Right.
Chris Pratt. He's doing like try to Italian Brooklyn style Chris Pratt accent. But all the, I mean, like, I did a trailer reaction with Gabe Moore, and we both were pretty wowed by like Jack
Hmm.
Black. Like he does not sound like Jack Black. I mean, sometimes you can kind of pick up like, oh, that's a little Jack Black bleeding into the voiceover, but for the most part, he's doing like a voice. He's not doing Jack Black as Bowser, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate. I could just gush about this thing. I mean, last week I talked about like my agenda as far as movies and films go is to no matter what entertain. That's the only
Hmm.
agenda that I care about, and this is right in line with that. Not only are they cashing in on the nostalgia of the Mario games, but they're making it feel like an epic must-see event film, which you don't see in a lot of animated movies. A lot of animated films will just go for the kids because they're an easy audience,
Hmm.
but this looks like a full-blown four-quadrant can't miss event movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's sad when we don't get the best quality for like family entertainment because again, yeah, like you said, it is seen as
Mm-hmm.
kind of an easy way to make money because it's like, oh, if it's a kids movie, that's automatically double ticket sales at least because someone has to be taking the kid to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately
Yeah.
we see sometimes that there's not enough effort put into that. So this gives me hope though.
Right.
It looks really good. I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited for it. I didn't think I would be.
That's cool. Yeah, and so you have kids that not only want to see this movie, but you also have parents. I guess that includes me now, since I'm going. My baby's coming, in a couple months. Um, You have
Yeah.
parents who want to see this because like everybody can get something out of Mario, whether you're a fan of Mario Kart, whether you're a fan of the original game or the new games, or you're a fan of the obscure TV show that came out in the 90s or the 80s. You know, there's something for everybody in this franchise that has kind of stood the test of time. And also, I think I'm excited because I'm sure you've heard of the original Mario Bros. Movie from back in the day, the live action
Yeah.
I think it was from 1993. Didn't get the
Yes.
best reception, was not a faithful adaptation. And I think that that is what kept us from getting another Mario movie in any variation, animated or live action, for years. And it wasn't until Illumination sought out the rights for Mario that the creators were like, all right, fine, but we are in charge. So, and I'm not the biggest fan of Illumination. I think their movies are generally like popcorn fluff, with the exception of some of those early Despicable Me films. Like, I think the first and second movies are pretty above average animated films, but like the Minion stuff, the Pet stuff, and Sing, all those movies, I think are just fine, but they're not, again, popcorn fluff. Whereas this feels like, okay, it's Illumination, which in a way their animation style I think lends to something like this, but it's a Nintendo who I think it probably was their intent to make this not just a typical animated movie, but a must-see event, because again, Mario doesn't just appeal to children. It appeals to adults who have a long history with playing the games, and all sorts of culture that Mario has, the Mario franchise has ingrained itself in. So yeah, I could gush about this. I haven't even seen it. I don't even know if it's going to be good, but I am just so excited.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we have to turn our attention to a trailer that doesn't look very good in my opinion, but a couple of weeks ago, during the Academy Awards, the second trailer or was this the second trailer or the third trailer? Or a trailer.
I think it might be the third. I'm not sure.
I think they did like a sneak peek during football or something. Or not football, but it came out on TV. So maybe it was the Golden Globes. I don't remember. A new trailer for The Little Mermaid, the live action Disney Little Mermaid, which has been rife with controversy ever since they announced that a black girl was going to play Ariel, which we literally just talked about this in the last episode. So I guess we're going to continue this dialogue. But I've been thinking a lot. I guess we'll just get right into it. But I have been thinking a lot about what you said about allowing an actor of a different ethnicity to redefine or capture the essence of a role. And I agree with that. I think that there has been obvious examples of that in the past. The only one I could think of, or even it wasn't even me, you pointed it out last time. It was like Commissioner Gordon from the Batman being played by Jeffrey Wright. All due respect to the actress, I don't think this is it. I nothing against her. I just don't think she's got. I don't see Ariel. It just doesn't feel like Ariel. It just does not look like the right fit. And with the culture and the outward dialogue about this movie, just the way that Disney is operating, it's unfortunate because it's not her fault. I don't remember the actress's name. It's like, I keep wanting to say Halle Berry, but it's like,
yeah, it's Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey. Okay. Yeah. I don't blame.
It's very similar.
Right. I don't blame her. I don't think it's just her fault. She seems like a good actress. She seems like a great singer. But I just don't see Ariel in this character. In this rendition of the Little
Mm-hmm.
Mermaid. And that's just one of the many problems I have with this movie.
Yeah, I was kind of talking to you about this, but I sort of avoided, like, I didn't rush to go see the trailer because I see so much of it on the internet that I kind of don't
Social
feel,
media,
yeah, I
yeah.
don't feel like I need to. But then the other day, literally yesterday, I was like, I should probably just see what this is about. Because everyone, again, has been complaining about, like, the color grading, or I want this to be more vibrant, and Disney movies are so, like, washed out in terms of their coloring now. Um, and so I was just curious in that front of, like, okay, how does this actually look? And the latest
Hmm.
trailer, the way it starts, I with like Prince Eric and his ship and like basically everything above, like on land essentially. Um, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, this looks kind of cool. This looks pretty epic. You got the storm and the ship and everything. And then as soon as we get underwater, I'm just like, oh, this. And I think what really did it for me too was King Triton just looks awful. Just his just the combination of like the CGI and his just whole look. I'm not talking about Javier Bardem as like the actor, but just his look design in the movie was just bad. And then two,
Hmm.
I think we got those little sneak peeks of Ursula, and it made me realize that like The Little Mermaid is such a great example of things you can achieve um, with animation in terms of over the top designs or the colors or just talking animals. They can have character and personality. And then if you try to translate that to live action, I don't think it just looks kind of goofy. And I wish if they were going to do an
Hmm.
adaptation, I wish they would have leaned into that more and maybe given Ursula, for example, um, a different design that felt a little more realistic if they're doing live action. What would a
Hmm.
sea witch look like? What would the sea creature who's out of the sun and just kind of away from everyone, like what would that look like, and so those were kind of just my reactions that I don't think
Right.
that this can keeping the character designs, I don't think it translates well. Um and again, I'm mainly
Mm.
looking at Ursula and how the over the top makeup and hair kind of doesn't make sense when you think about it if you're in the ocean. And then I just didn't like King Triton's design. Um,
I was very
and
thrown off by his breastplate. I was like,
yeah,
bro,
yeah,
why do you need a shirt? You're a mermaid.
it was just, and he's supposed to be intimidating, and I just saw that, and I just went, ooh, I don't have a good feeling about
And
this.
Javier Bardem, I think, is a great pick for that role. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think I agree with you. I just don't. I think he could be intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
The look is just not intimidating.
Right. Yes, that is the perfect way to put it. Because he obviously has proven himself as an
Hmm.
actor to be intimidating. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't look very promising, and I kind of wish that again, if you're gonna do an adaptation, obviously don't change it completely because people love the source material, but you need a reason for it to exist. I know that was a huge complaint with
Hmm.
the Lion King live action. It was this is shot for shot. Also, they're not emoting. Literally, why does this exist? And I think
Yeah.
part of my opinions about casting people who maybe don't look like the original source material is that idea of okay, if you're going to make an adaptation, you're going to put like a twist on it. Let's see this interpretation. Let's see this artistic interpretation.
Hmm.
Um, that kind of falls under that umbrella of thought. And so I wish that this looked promising in terms of, oh, this is offering us something different or interesting. But instead, it looks
Hmm.
like it's trying too
Hmm.
hard to replicate the look in ways that it doesn't work. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. The best example, I've always said this, the best example of a great live action translation from a Disney movie, animated Disney movie, is Cinderella.
Absolutely.
I think I said this last time. They found a way to tell the story, but adding a little more of a different take that was very much in line with the original film, but just adding a bit more of it, adding a different take, and then also adding context where there was none. And I think it was a masterful job of really adhering to the original in a way that also gave it new life and new meaning. Now, I completely agree with you on The Lion King. I was one of the few people that vocally was just like, I hate this. It's soulless. It's weird to watch these lifeless animals not emote. And it could have been fine. I mean, like, you're Disney. Dig into the fact that you're an animated film and this is an animated adaptation of an animated movie, and just, allow yourself to be goofy. Nothing has to be like hyper realistic. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't buy, Flounder being just a normal looking fish, and then Sebastian, she got legs, you idiot.
That was so bad. Yeah.
Oh my Lanta, like, why?
Yeah.
This, I don't understand it. Like, be creative. Do a different take. Don't just this feels like this feels like Beauty and the Beast 2.0.
Yeah, I feel like the fun of the source material is that you can do a lot with animation in terms of these characters or these animals talk, and they have personality traits in their design that are exaggerated from like real life animal designs. Like, that's the point. So
it's just
I'm not super hopeful.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say this, I am curious though, because I did notice seeing Halle Bailey in the role, obviously within the trailers. Obviously she doesn't look like a teenager, and so I'm hoping they're like aging the character up, and I'm hoping in that way Ariel will be maybe a little less bratty, because I feel like she kind of had moments in the movie that as you get older you kind of rewatch and you're like, she's a little whiny.
Yeah, like, this is all your fault.
Yeah, like, pretty much.
Like the idea that like everything happens because she wanted to go on land, and then that causes all this chaos to happen, and then King Triton's just like, oh, I'm going to miss her. Here you go, Ariel, have your legs, live your life. You were right.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost died, but who cares? You fixed everything. I really was Eric who saved the day, but
yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if they're gonna keep
never send a mermaid to do a man's job. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm wondering if they're gonna keep, like, how much of her characterization they're gonna keep, or if it's gonna be kind of like with Cinderella, where you can kind of expand and maybe give a little more humanity, and like it's easier for us to relate to her, I guess is what I'm saying, and just not roll our eyes at her.
Right. Yeah. I guess we'll see. I mean, I won't. I'm not gonna see it, but like. Yeah,
I don't even know if I'm gonna
time will tell.
See it, to be honest.
My wife is already like, nah.
Yeah, and it's like Disney, between Disney and Marvel, it's like they pump out so much content that if you don't want to see something, it's so easy to be like, I'm not gonna carve time out of my week to go see it. Yeah. So
there's only one big May film that I want to see. And that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, I can't believe that's already coming out in May.
AKA the last great Marvel movie. I know. It's weird. I remember taking a girl on a date to see the first Guardians movie, and now I'm going to take my wife to see Guardians.
That's
It all
poetic.
comes full circle.
I like that.
I know. Yeah, it was right before college too. So
Yeah, that.
wow.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Too bad we can't talk about Guardians for an hour.
Yeah, it'll be a
Um,
later episode.
yeah. Oh, speaking of which, totally forgot they announced this week, but we don't have to get too much into it. What are your
That's
thoughts
okay.
on James Gunn officially announcing he's directing the Superman reboot?
Um, so I'm not super like invested in DC and a lot of DC heroes. Like there's a couple movies I've seen and heroes I thought I
Mm-hmm.
am more of like into the Marvel superheroes. So, but
Right.
the whole thing with James Gunn in general, I've been really impressed with his the way he tackles movies and the superhero genre. I was a big fan of his Suicide Squad movie. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I think it was fun to watch him kind of like you could tell that with Marvel he had to keep to that family friendly type, and with Suicide Squad he completely just did. He had so much fun, and you could see it again. Like I
He was
said earlier,
unhinged.
yeah, like I said earlier, when you see filmmakers and actors having fun, it translates, and it's a good time. And I know that
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of criticism about how Superman has been depicted, and again, I don't have a
You don't have a
bone in
horse in the
that fight.
race.
But yeah, I don't have a horse in the race, but just kind of hearing the consensus, I I feel like anyone should give him a shot to see his interpretation because he his stuff has a lot of heart in it. Like not only is it fun and entertaining and funny, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
I feel like has heart. So I don't see why not like giving him a
Mm-hmm.
chance. I feel like you would have more of like an opinion or any. I guess do you have an idea of maybe what he'll do or what he'll stay away from or
Mm-hmm.
what direction he'll go in?
Yeah, for the sake of time, I won't go too much into it. But I did see him tweet out that he was watching the original Richard Donner cut of Superman and Superman 2, which makes me think
Mm,
he's trying to really adhere to the traditional roots of who Superman is and what he means to people.
yeah.
I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he was great. I think I would have watched 10 more movies with him if we had been given the chance. And I'm a little bitter about the way things went down, but at this point it's like, you know what? We have a great Zack Snyder-esque trilogy with him, those Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, and Justice League. It's a great little relic of history now, and let's just move on. Let's just get a great Superman off the ground, someone that embodies everything we all love about Superman, and let's go. I think also his emotional hook, and with this being inspired by his relationship with his dad,
Mm.
um, and the fact that he's writing it too. I think he's going to do a good job. If you would have asked me, 2014, walking into Guardians of the Galaxy with my girlfriend at the time, I'd say, hell no, no, James Gunn can't direct Superman. No way. That'd be horrible. But seeing how much he loves comic book movies, how much he loves these characters, how much emotion he's put into the Guardians movies, despite how zany and wild those are, and even something like the Suicide Squad, which was kind of just a straight laced Dirty Dozen
Yeah.
style war
Hmm.
movie, which I loved. A Dirty Dozen that was the appeal of walking into that film. Was like, all right, cool, like Dirty Dozen with superheroes or supervillains,
Yeah.
awesome. So I think in subtle ways he's proven that he can be very versatile and he can do heartfelt emotional stories with crazy zany characters. So I would love. I actually am very very optimistic about his take on Superman, and I think, yeah, there are plenty of directors I'd rather see do it, but at this point, if he's going to be the leader of this new DC universe, let's go.
So, someone's got to clean up that mess. Like,
Yeah,
oh man.
yeah.
And I think it's good to have someone who has a vision and you can see their thumbprint on something as opposed to,
Hmm.
oh, Marvel's our biggest competitor, so we have to do something different. I feel
Yeah,
like everything they've done is like to to compete with Marvel. They've not done something for the sake of a visionary direction. If
right,
that makes
exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think James Gunn knows that. I think he's going to go into this and want to do something completely different and not copy paste Marvel Studios in that way.
Right.
So I'm very optimistic.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. Let's get into this little bit of news about a possible rumor. This isn't really confirmed, but like a possible rumor that Quentin Tarantino has decided what his last film is going to be. And it's going to be a movie called, actually I have to pull up the article, but it's a movie script titled The Movie Critic. And it could be, it could be his 10th and final film. And let's see, this is an article from Collider. To no one's surprise, details of the film are being kept under lock and key, but it's said to have a female lead and will be set in the 1970s Los Angeles. With the time frame, there's some speculation it could be a Pauline Kael film, who was a highly influential firebrand critic known for clashing with editors and filmmakers alike. She was a former Paramount consultant who worked closely with Warren Beatty, a trailblazing critic for New Hollywood movement, and notably played a crucial role in inspiring notable filmmakers, including Wes Anderson and, of course, Quentin Tarantino. The director even published a book called Cinema Speculation in 2022, which is a collection of essays inspired by the work of Kael. So you and I are both obviously big fans of Tarantino. I'd say he's in my Mount Rushmore of film directors. I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've loved almost every movie he's made, and I don't necessarily believe he's going to retire at 10, but maybe he's trying to preserve his legacy. So yeah, but I don't know. What do you think of the subject matter, for this potential subject matter? We don't know if this is for sure going to be his 10th and final movie.
Right. Well, honestly, I don't know if I would call myself a fan. That was more my roommate in college. She was like a huge fan.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I apologize.
That's okay. But I have heard that whole thing of him saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to do 10 films and then I'm done," which I don't know if I buy, because I forget if he has a reason, but it feels very much like, oh, I just want to have a thing that makes me different. I don't know. But he's still I don't feel like close to that age where I'd be like, yeah, he probably just wants to kick back, and it's like he has a lot of life left in him. He could still make movies, and I feel like his passion for creating things, and he still very much has an audience that would go see the stuff that he makes. So I don't know how realistic it is if this would be like his last one. I'm a little like, why? I feel like you would be happier if you made as many as you possibly could in this life that you have. So, but I think it definitely, if that is what he's going with, I think it'll definitely be a draw for people, and that'll be the hype around it. I feel like more than maybe the movie itself. It's kind of like how The Hateful Eight, it was actually shot on film. That was, I feel like that the marketing for that was exactly
like the novelty of the movie.
And so I feel like if he is sticking with the final movie, then that will be this novelty of, oh, you gotta catch his last movie, So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though.
I saw a video essay that kind of broke this down, and I think it's a very interesting angle. That I think he's thinking about his legacy. There are a lot of filmmakers who have continued to make movies even in their old age, and it just is kind of sad because they some of them lose their spark, and some of them continue to make bangers, like say like Martin Scorsese or someone like that. I know that he spends a lot of time to make, like, it's been what, 3-4 years since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, he takes a lot of time crafting his movies before he goes into production. So I think he really wants to preserve his legacy as a filmmaker. And I've also heard that he's not going to ride into the sunset and just not do anything for the rest of his life. I've heard he actually is going to do a TV show. He actually wants to write
Oh, okay.
he wants to keep writing screenplays. He wants to do theater. He wants to write
Wow.
books. So he's got a lot that he still
Yeah.
is going to do. In the back of my mind, though, I think like I'll give him to like 10 years.
Yeah.
He'll come back with like, oh, I got a great story. I got to tell this. And like, I'm coming out of retirement. I'm gonna make another movie, and it's gonna be the biggest thing in the world.
That would be really huge.
Kill Bill 3.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but as far as the subject matter, I mean, I don't really know much about Pauline Kael, but
I don't either, but I know he's super into his like Hollywood history. Like he loves everything Hollywood, and to be honest, I don't really know much of anything about Hollywood history. So, which I think it would be interesting to see like a super niche like story that he's obviously inspired by and invested in. But yeah, I've not heard of any of that, but that would be cool to see though, if that's the story he's going with.
Yeah. I think the very niche and unique take on Hollywood and Once Upon a Time appeals to a lot of people. Because, when Hollywood does a movie that is kind of like a self-grandizing, Hollywood's so great, it's wonderful. It kind of comes off as disingenuous. Like, I didn't see Babylon because it just looked like a grotesque depiction of all the worst parts of Hollywood. And it's just like, this looks like it's gaining traction for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Whereas Tarantino, when he does Hollywood, it feels like a very intimate, almost a childlike fascination with cinema, with the experience of going to the movies, with the experience of living in Hollywood and pursuing a career.
Yeah.
And the struggles and the hardships and I love the movie because I think it encapsulates like, every struggling filmmaker or artist in Hollywood or someone trying to make it in this industry, not just Hollywood, they need someone that has their back. And for DiCaprio's character, that was Brad Pitt. I'm sure you have a friend like that in your life. I know I definitely have a friend like that in my life where like, we come to each other for constant moral support because, it's a tough business and it takes a lot of hard work and struggle to, get your foot in the door. But, and then, the industry goes through so many different changes. So if it's something along those lines, I think we're in for a treat.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see what he's got in store. And if this is actually his last hurrah or if not.
Yeah. We shall see. I'm not convinced, but we shall see. So let's do a quick ad break and we will go right into our discussion and my reaction to Scream 6. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back. So, as I said at the beginning of the show, Miley has seen Scream 6. I have not. I am a little bitter about them not having Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott in the film, despite this is like the only horror franchise next to maybe Evil Dead that I really, really like. And I still might see this movie. I don't know. I'm still, my wife and I are still kind of gauging whether we want to spend the money to go see it in theaters or just wait till it comes out on Paramount Plus or wherever it goes. I don't remember. But Miley, who, as we've established last week, is one of the biggest Scream fans I know, has seen the movie. We did talk about it when she got out of the theater. I don't know if her opinion has changed since then, so I have no idea what she's going to tell me, but she is going to give me a breakdown, a full spoiler breakdown of the movie, so spoilers if you haven't seen Scream 6, and if this properly sets up an exciting future for the franchise or not. So, Miley, take it away.
All right, and we're going full spoilers, right?
Full spoilers. So turn back if you've not seen Scream 6.
Okay, so I will say it's probably got one of the coolest openings. We meet uh, this woman at a bar, and she's meeting up with someone on a date, and it's the whole like, oh, I'm running late, I'm so sorry, and then he calls her, which we all know where this is going, or at least we kind of think we do. But I think it's interesting the whole like, okay, yeah, you're meeting up for a date. It's an interesting way to introduce the phone call and how that's evolved since Drew Barrymore's first phone call. But she's basically let outside and into an alleyway, and the movie conversation comes up because she's a professor that teaches, I think it's like a film class or something at a college, and so they get into slashers. And then when the Ghostface voice switches on, he says something like, I can't believe you're an expert in slashers and you still walk down the alleyway. And of course we're in New York, so it's like this New York alleyway. And then Ghostface comes out and he like stabs her and he stabs her and he stabs her, right? And you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's our opening. But then he actually takes off the mask and we see who it is. I know, right?
Whoa, that's huge.
Yeah, and it's it's the actor who played Flash from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
Topher Grace?
No. Tom Holland.
Wait. Sorry. Say that again.
It's Flash from.
Oh, Flash. It's.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Tony Ravioli. What's his name?
I forget his name, but I recognize it's.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I forget the actor's name.
That was like wrong Spider-Man franchise, wrong character. I thought you said Eddie Brock.
So excited.
So I was like, wait, Venom?
No, that would have been wild. No, so he's
that would have been crazy.
We see him like pack.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So he packs his mask up and he's walking back, and we even see him. He goes to a college campus, and we even see him like interact with Tara, Jenna Ortega's character for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets back to his dorm and he calls his buddy and he's like, basically talking about, yeah, I did the first practice kill, blah, blah, blah. And you basically get the impression that him and his roommate are trying to make their movie. And they have this whole shrine of Ghostface in their closet. And he's describing how it felt to like kill this teacher, and they're going after Sam and Tara next. But then the Ghostface voice comes on when he's talking to his roommate, and at first he thinks it's still his roommate. He's like, oh, he said we wouldn't use the voice on each other. And then, spoiler alert, he leads him through this like, oh, you're getting warmer, colder, whatever. And he opens the fridge, and his roommate is like dead, chopped up like in his fridge. And then a Ghostface comes out and kills him. So we have this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we've had these guys who thought they were going to be the next Ghostface killers. But then we have our Ghostface killer onto them. And I was like, nope, you're not doing this. I'm taking care of it. So that was like a very wild opening. And I really enjoyed it because I was like, it's something that you expect from a Scream movie, and even though it is predictable, you still need to have it, because I feel like if we didn't have it, or if people are like, oh, it's been done too many times, if it's not there, we'd be disappointed. And so I think the fact that they were able to do something new with it was really cool.
Yeah.
And I thought it was gonna be a little bigger than it ended up being, which was a little bit of a letdown. But that's our opening. And then we kind of go into seeing where our characters were last time. We saw our survivors from 5. So Mindy, Chad, and Tara are at the same school in New York. And Sam has also moved to New York to keep an eye on Tara. And basically she's being like super vigilant, basically kind of like a helicopter mom. Tara's at this college party and she gets kind of drunk, and this guy wants to like take her upstairs, but then Chad is like, no, I don't think so. And a fight breaks out, and then Sam's all like, I told you not to go to that party. And then Tara's like, I don't need you to like do this, whatever. And so they kind of get into a scuffle.
Was that kind of the dynamic in 5?
The dynamic in 5 was, you know, you left us, Sam, and I'm resentful for you, and now you've come back and you think you can just act like my sister, basically. And she kind of carries that over. Like, she even, I think, says in the movie, you just come back in my life and you think that you can tell me what to do and tell me how to live my life. And so there's this like sister tension there.
Okay, so yeah, in the fifth movie, Sam wasn't there, and now in 6, she's
too much there.
She's too much there. Exactly. Okay. Yes. Cool. I like that.
Yeah. And then another thing to note is that there's been this online smear campaign against Sam. Basically, the internet has this conspiracy theory that Sam was actually the ones who did the murders in Woodsboro, the movie before. So as she's interacting with these college kids, they'll like say mean things to her or make comments. And so it's basically like people think that she is the one behind it, basically. And so, and all these other kind of character things are going on, but they're not like super important to the plot. Something interesting that happens though is this detective, who's the father of Sam's roommate, calls her to the station because I guess her ID was planted at the murders from the opening. So she goes down to the station and is being questioned. And then, did we freeze?
We froze for a second, but we're good.
Okay. So we already have this thing of, oh, Ghostface is close to Sam. Like, who's it gonna be, you know? And so then she tries to go clear her name, and then we get this whole thing, this really cool scene at her apartment where she's at this table with Mindy and Chad and Tara, and they're like trying to cheer her up. And her roommate is upstairs on the phone with her dad, actually, the detective. And we see Ghostface come into the room, and Sam's neighbor across the street, who they kind of have like a thing going, he sees Ghostface in her room. And so he tries to call Sam, like, he's in the house, something's going to happen. But because Sam is having fun with her friend, she's like, oh, I'll just call him later. And so she like rejects his call, which is like such a high tense moment. And then they hear something going on in the room and they're like, something's not right. And so then roommate gets killed and then Ghostface comes down, and then the whole kind of cat and mouse chase happens. Mindy gets stabbed, and she's still going. She's hobbling along. But then Mindy's girlfriend also gets stabbed. And that character has like probably the most brutal, or one of the most brutal, because it's one of those like the knife in and then it twists, and it's just really, really bad. But then, yeah, one of the best sequences of the movie is Sam's, lack of a better word, boyfriend across the street, he has a ladder that he like pulls through the window to get across so they can like crawl across the ladder to safety.
I remember seeing that scene in the trailers.
Yeah, and it's so high stress because they're trying to like keep Ghostface behind the door at bay, and then also try to get across, and 2 people are bleeding out. And then Mindy's girlfriend is the last to go, which is stupid because she's the one wounded the most. So you would want your most able-bodied person to like, whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like terrified in the middle, like frozen with fear. And then Ghostface like shakes the ladder, and she falls off, and her head hits a dumpster, and then she just falls and like dies. It was pretty brutal. And then after that, they do the whole meetup of like, okay, who's who's the killer. Mindy kind of gives her spiel on the meta movie commentary of, oh, we're doing a requel sequel and all that. And I will say one of my biggest complaints with this movie is that even though we are introduced to kind of new characters, you can tell they're filler and disposable. Like, they don't get any, like, so Mindy's girlfriend was one of those characters. She seemed cool, but like she didn't get a lot of development. Chad has a roommate who we only see Chad trying to help him ask a girl out at a party, but he doesn't really do anything. Sam's roommate, I think, was the most interesting, but still, like, you just get the sense that, okay, these characters aren't going to stick around. Like, they're just here to be killed. And so that kind of sucks because you want to get invested and keep this game up of, like, like, anyone could die. But when you have characters like that, so shallowly written, you're kind of like, okay, well, I know they're going to die. So, but, so that happens, and then there's another incident at gas station, or not a gas station, but like a convenience store. And I think, yeah, we've seen that in the trailer. And essentially what the detective is seeing is that the Ghostface kills are leaving behind the actual Ghostface masks from previous kills. And so they're counting back. So so they started with Richie's mask, and then Amber's, and then Jill's, and, you know, so it's all kind of, they're leaving like breadcrumbs basically. And every scene feels like its own really cool, like, set piece. They're all very tense. They're all very interesting. I was so nervous. Like, I was very invested. They're all very creative. And I had a lot of fun watching them, and they felt more, it wasn't just kind of a, oh, he's in a dark corner, jump out, stab you. It's like we had the convenience store, which was stressful, but also a lot of fun. And then they also recreate, and they reference it too, like they're in like a park, like from Scream 2, and they try to get him on a call and try to trace the phone. And they realize, even though they have him on the phone with Sam, they realize he's calling from a specific address far away, but they recognize it as Gail Weathers' address. And yeah,
enter Gail Weathers.
Yeah. And Gail she had come up a little before, but I felt like her entrance was a little shoehorned in. It felt too repetitive of, you're only here to write your book and blah, blah, blah. And someone had to write a book. And I'm like, okay, this feels a little, I don't know. It felt kind of, we had to get her in here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But she does get a phone call in her apartment. So she gets to go one-on-one with Ghostface, which was really fun. And he's in her apartment, and she gets her gun out, and she's trying to find him. And they go back and forth, and it's really entertaining. But at the last second, it's like she has him down, and she's about to get him, but at the last second, he gets like a shard of glass and like stabs her in the side. And I was just like, oh, no. But she ends up being able to go to the hospital, and she ends up being fine. But in the moment, you're just like, oh no.
Don't do this to me again.
Yeah, pretty much. And so then they're still trying to figure out, like, okay, leaving these clues, what's going to happen. And then they bring Kirby from the fourth movie onto the case, because she actually was in the FBI, I believe. And then she came to New York to help with these murders because she had
experience.
An experience with that. Yeah. And her character was fine. I kind of feel like it was too much of a convenient, like, oh, we brought a fan favorite back. And I'm not sure they really knew what to do with her, if that makes sense. Like, she kind of could have been replaced by any other detective character.
Do you think it was to offset Sydney's absence in the film?
Yeah.
And Dewey's at that point?
Yeah. Because she does work as a detective, so it's like she is looking at kind of their board with the yarn and all that stuff and trying to figure this out. But again, it's like they shoehorn in one scene where her and Mindy are talking about their movie trivia, and you can tell they're kind of just like, all right, this is what fans want from her, so we'll just give it to them, and then that's it. And
nostalgia bait.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I do appreciate that they aged her up. Like, they didn't just try to keep her as her teenage character. Like, she did feel older, and Hayden Panettiere was really present in the role, which was great. So she was fun to watch. It just kind of makes you wonder, like, all right, did they kind of just, how well thought out was it? Or was it just, oh, we'll listen to the fans, and then, you know.
Right.
And so I'm trying to think where this goes. And then, okay. Was it? No. Kirby figured it out. So Kirby finds this hidden shrine in this abandoned theater. And it is like the ultimate ghost face shrine. It's got all these artifacts from like every killing and like all the costumes, and the masks are all gone because, you know, that's what they're leaving breadcrumbs for. And it's got like all Gale Weathers books and stuff, and it is really cool, but then you're kind of like, how do they get all this? And I think a character even says, like, isn't this evidence? Like, what's this doing here? And then Kirby's like, oh yeah, well, cops love money, so you can pay them off. And it's kind of just written off as like, okay, so you get like pieces of evidence from every crime scene from Ghostface since the 90s. Whatever. It's cool to look at.
Okay. Yeah.
And it is fun fan service because you kind of, oh, that's that, blah, blah, blah. So, but in terms of the story, it's not super realistic that, okay, you managed to get every single piece, right? And so they're like, okay, the Ghostface we're dealing with is a big fan of like all the other killings, obviously. And so they're still on their quest to figure out who he is and why he's doing it. And so then they have this idea to set a trap because it's like an older theater. I forget how it works, but essentially it's like there's one way in, and if you can basically maneuver it to where, because you have to come in this old elevator that you can't get out once you're in if a door is shut, or I don't know. It's something like that. They were able to, like, we can trap him basically. And so they set that up, but as they're setting it up, Tara and they're planning to set that up, and so then they're like, okay, we're gonna meet here at this time, and you know, we'll be there waiting for him basically. And so they take the subway, which is where we get our subway scene. And the scene was so cool because it really drew out that tension, and they hit it with cuts in the trailers, but Mindy actually gets separated from the group, and she has to take the next bus with Chad's roommate, Ethan, I think his name is. And her whole thing is she's suspicious that he's Ghostface, but it's played off as like a joke. Like, she's just like, I don't like, she straight up will tell him, like, she'll like call him Ghostface. Like, she basically just straight up says, like, I don't trust you, like, you're probably the killer kind of thing. But it's played off as like a joke. And so she's in this car with him. Sorry, I'll let the noise pass.
No, it's okay.
So Mindy's in this car with Ethan, but she's trying to keep her distance. She like doesn't trust him. And then both groups experience like, oh yeah, there's people in costumes for Halloween, and you see a lot of ghost faces. And there's a really cool moment where it's like looking at Sam, and it like makes a beeline for her, and she's about to like, she's like tenses up, she's ready, but it's just this, it's someone just trying to make his way off and like get off the train, which I take public transit. I understand. It's like, they're only open for so long. You got to move through people. So you just got to go.
Yeah.
So that was a cool moment. But then in Mindy's car, it's getting like the lights keep flickering. And then she ends up, because the corner she's in, there's a bunch of people sleeping around her. And so there's a ghost face that comes and stabs her. And no one sees it because they're sleeping. And so I was so mad. I was like, Mindy is like my favorite character in this current movie, and she's like the best in my opinion of the new ones. And I was so upset. But again, she ends up surviving, so there's that. Yeah, but so she gets stabbed, and then Ethan helps her off, and then she was like, he notices like something's wrong because she was trying to keep her distance from him. And so when he notices she's stabbed, he's like, oh shoot, like we gotta get you help. And he helps her off, and then she's like, I guess you weren't Ghostface. I was wrong, or whatever. So it's still kind of that joke. So the rest of the crew make it to the theater where they're trying to catch him. And they're in there, and Kirby has this thing of like, okay, I'm FBI, so I'm the only one who is allowed to have a gun. Like, I don't want you kids like getting trigger happy, basically. And then we get a call from the detective, who is like, he calls Sam, and he's like, Sam, you gotta get out of there. Kirby's the killer. She's not been with the FBI. Like she has a psychotic breakdown and like whatever. And then Sam's like, what are you talking about? And then like Kirby's nowhere to be found. And then we cut to Chad and Tara in the lobby area. And then not one, but two ghost faces show up, and they take their turn stabbing Chad, which is really sad.
Does he die?
Yeah, and so then Tara, and then he ends up not dying. That's the thing. No one notable dies, which part of me is like, okay, but then I'm like, well,
yeah, a little sus.
Little sus indeed. And so Tara, so it's just Tara and Sam now, and so they go back into the theater, and then I want to say the detective gets there, and then we see Kirby covered in blood like come back, and then they're like, we know you're Ghostface, and she's like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, like I just fought one of them off or something. And then we see both ghost faces come up behind the detective, and so it's like, but he's just standing there, so the reveal is that he's actually in on it.
Oh my
So there's
goodness.
3 ghost faces. Yeah, so there's 3 of them. I think Kirby gets shot at or something to where she's like taken down, but she's not dead. But it's essentially like Sam and Tara, the only remaining ones. And so Detective's Ghostface, and then the other 2 are Ethan, Chad's roommate, who Mindy was right about, which I was kind of like, I don't care because he didn't get any development, so I don't feel a certain way.
Attached.
But then the second person is Sam's roommate, who supposedly died earlier.
Oh.
And yeah. Yeah. So and then also to note, just for me to indulge myself, I kind of was suspicious of the detective a little bit, because there were just some lines said earlier about like them working with him, and like it wasn't just like we want to catch Ghostface. I think Tara at one point said like, we're going to trap him and then we're going to execute him. And I feel like a detective or a cop would have said like, well, no, like we got to take him in for questioning or blah, blah, blah. Like he just seemed gung-ho about the idea of like, just take him out. And I don't know, he got kind of aggressive sometimes with his language. And I was like, he feels a little violent, like kind of violent undertones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of pegged the detective, and I was like, the Ghostface reveals are always, we see it happen. And the fact that he said, oh, Kirby's the killer, I was like, this is not our reveal. this is a fake out. Like,
Yeah.
you know. And so essentially, who these people are and their motive. The detective is actually Richie's dad. Richie from 5, one of the killers. And Ethan and Ethan and Quinn, the girl, they're his siblings. And so very much like Scream 2, this is a family revenge plot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so the Ghostface shrine was actually Richie's, and his dad was able to get him all that stuff, and was like, he was just obsessed with these movies, and I just had to indulge him, basically. And so they basically used, and then this part I'm still fuzzy on, and it doesn't make sense, and it's a little frustrating, that I think what happened was, like, the 2 fake out killers from the beginning, I think I'm still trying to think how it connects, but somehow I guess that the detective and his kids found out that these 2 kids were trying to, like, bring the legacy to New York or whatever, but they were like, no, we gotta go after them, so they cut them out. I kind of wish it was a bigger conspiracy theory than that, but the killers from the opening don't really connect super much, which I kind of wish they did. But so yeah, it's basically they were in charge of the smear campaign against Sam, and there was a whole line of, like, it's not enough to kill someone, you gotta assassinate their character. And I'm like, okay, that's our social commentary, I guess. And so then they do the traditional kind of back and forth, and then we get your favorite part of 5, which is Sam. Oh, it kind of happened a little bit earlier, but Sam basically gets, a pep talk from her psycho killer dad.
He comes back again.
Yeah, it's not as prevalent in this one, but there is kind of a moment of, like, there's, like, a moment earlier in the movie where, because each Ghostface costume is behind it is in its own glass panel, and so she sees Billy Loomis's, and then he's like, come on, Sam, we gotta have some people up, blah 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 blah, like, you gotta protect your sister.
Inner killer. Gosh, I hate that.
Again, it's that weird, like, he's trying to give her a pep talk, but he's a killer, and so it's like, I don't know. And then it gets a little more complicated too, because there's a moment where Sam knocks out the detective. So Ethan and Quinn get taken out, and I'm kind of brushing by this, but, like, the back and forth and all the action, violence, whatever, chase stuff is really cool in the movie. I'm just kind of brushing past it because there's a lot.
Yeah.
But the detective is left, and there's a moment where he gets knocked out, and then when he comes to, he gets the call, and it's, like, the Ghostface voice, and it's Sam, and that she's basically taunting him now. So it's like, it's kind of, like, reminiscent of the first one where Sydney is able to get away, and then she calls Billy and Stu, and, like, they don't know where she is, and she tries to get him, right?
Yeah.
So, it's supposed to be a cool moment, and I think in another timeline it would have been oddly satisfying, but essentially she puts on Billy's, like, old Ghostface getup and has even his original knife, and that's the final, like, confrontation and kill, which, again, could have been a cool, like, it could have been cool in a way of, like, taking it back and her kind of not owning it, like, accepting it, but basically, like, okay, I can't hide from this, but I'm still gonna take out the bad guy, if that makes sense. But because it got mixed up with the whole he's giving her a pep talk, it still just felt kind of weird. I was like, this should be cool, but I'm not like buying it. So
yeah, embrace your inner killer 2.0.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't like that.
Yeah. So that was still, and that was, I think I texted you, like, there's still some problems from 5 that, like, carry over. That was one of them.
Okay.
And so then detective dies, and then we get the whole, like, oh, ambulances come, Chad's gonna be okay. Mindy comes running, even though she got stabbed, and she's like, guys, I figured it out. It's Ethan and Quinn, like, I figured it out. And they're like, yeah, we know already. She's like, ah, dang it, I was late to it again, or something like that. So she has kind of her bit there. And then we have a moment where Sam, I guess, had kept Billy's mask, and she's, like, looking at it, and you're kind of wondering, ooh, what's going to happen or whatever. And then she ends up just, like, dropping it in the street. So it's kind of this metaphor of, like, I'm not going to embrace my inner killer, which I think the whole thing is kind of corny.
She's letting it go. That's just, that's weird.
But, like, did we think she wasn't? I don't know.
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're teasing her to be the next Ghostface or something. Like she goes psychotic.
Yeah. I don't think she's a fleshed out character enough to pull that
Even
off.
after this one, but really.
I feel so bad because so many people on the internet are saying, like, I didn't like her in 5, but she redeemed herself in this one. And I wish I could be one of those people, but I still felt like she just felt like a Riverdale character. Like, she has a scene early on where she's trying to see a therapist, and he's like, oh, there's clearly something you don't want to talk about, but the session to work, you have to talk about it. And so it's like, but then she kind of breezes through her, oh yeah, my dad was Billy Loomis, and then this happened, and then my boyfriend tried to kill me last year, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, the way she kind of breezed through it was like, again, you don't feel like someone who's carried this with you. Like, if this is so traumatizing and this is so hard for you to talk about, like, it's just, I still just don't buy it. And I wish I did, because I feel like Sam, in theory, would be a really cool final girl. And she has a lot going for her. I think it's just tragic that the same franchise that gave us Sidney Prescott and Gail Weathers, and I'd even put, like, Kirby and even Jill. I think Jill was a great Ghostface. Like, just all these really cool multi-layered women characters.
Women, yeah.
And, like, final girls, too. Like, Gail and Sydney. And then it's like you have Sam. Even, I feel like, yeah. I feel like even Mindy I prefer her. And I think a lot of that credit goes to Jasmine Savoy, the actress, because I felt like she was in it a lot more this one, the character was, than the last one. And she was just a lot of fun to watch and root for. So I kind of wish it was more centered on her, but alas.
So is there any allusion to Sydney or her presence in this? It sounds like she doesn't play into this at all. Or does she? Yeah.
So when, I think it's Gail. I think it's Gail. Someone asks, I think Sam asks, like, oh, does Sydney know? And then she's like, basically, Sydney and her family, she's like, she took Mark and the girls, and they left town, and they're just kind of staying low, basically. And so that's kind of the only mention, which, it's like, if you know, you know. I kind of looked at my husband and went, like, yeah, because they couldn't afford her, apparently. Or wouldn't pay her, I should say. But, yeah, it basically was just the idea of, like, she's not getting involved. She's actually going to just lay low, which I personally kind of think makes sense, because if it's in Woodsboro, that feels a little more contained. And that's, like, a place she could go to and
tackle her past once and for all.
Yeah, but with this one, it's like, oh, there's crazies in New York now. Like, where else could they be? Like, I'm not gonna try to
get involved,
cross, like, state city borders trying to figure this out. Like, they could be anywhere at this point. So
yeah, if I may say real quick, I don't understand. Like, Sydney has a family. She has children now. She has a life. And I mean, I guess they kind of did that in Scream 4, but like that's also Scream 5. When we see her, she's like years removed from the trauma, and she's like properly been able to deal with it and move on from it. And like her just the dynamic of like, oh, Sydney is happy and she has a family. That's interesting. I'd much rather see that movie, that story, than, I mean, I do like some of these new characters and this new angle and stuff, but I don't like Sid. It really, to me, like Sydney is Scream. Without her, if they had done a better job of introducing, Sam Carpenter, maybe I'd be saying a different thing. Or if Tara Carpenter was the lead, because Jenna Ortega is just, objectively speaking, a much better actress. But it's just, I don't know. I still have issues with Sydney not being involved.
I thought it was really fun overall. It had a lot of excitement, and even though there were still some weaknesses, I feel like this is still entertaining. So plot holes and character issues are kind of present, but this is a fun one. And so I think this moves up my list in my Scream ranking, just because of how invested I was and how tense the scenes were and how they really, really utilized their location. It wasn't just jump out, stab. It was like each set piece felt really unique. And so because of that, I think it was a lot of fun. Not perfect by any means, but I think an improvement from the fifth one, for sure.
Hey guys, so unfortunately, while we were recording this interview, me and Miley, the internet cut out at the last half, so I wasn't able to get all of Miley's final thoughts on the film and wrap up the conversation and give her a chance to plug herself like I normally preferred to do. So I had to edit things a little awkwardly at the end there, and cut the interview a little short, unfortunately. But we were able to get everything as far as Miley's breakdown of Scream 6 and my reaction. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was definitely a lot of fun for me. My thoughts are still the same, generally, on Scream 6. My wife and I are still debating whether we're going to go see it or not. We may just wait for streaming, because I still do want to see this film as a Scream fan. But as far as whether I want to pay to go see it in the theater, honestly, I don't think I am. So there's just also too much coming out this year that I'm looking forward to seeing anyways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Again, Miley, thank you so much for being on the show. You're a fantastic guest as always, and you're welcome back anytime to talk about Scream, the culture, whatever. As long as it's Miley, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to take a brief hiatus from the podcast. My wife and I are going on vacation, and we will be back soon to continue our dive into culture, entertainment industry, movie news. I have more special guests that I'm going to be lining up soon, which I hope you guys will get excited over. Let me know down in the comments below if you like the new video format, if you want to see any changes, or whatever. I mean, I'm probably not going to listen to you if you say you don't like it, because this is the future of the podcast. But thank you guys for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. Give this video a like on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You know where to find me. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless and peace out.